Hello, welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Um, my last video, I want to formally apologize for how painful the audio was. I had recorded the video using my webcam microphone accidentally without realizing. The issue has since been resolved, and I hope the audio quality is much better for this video. Other good news, the Patreon is officially up. I will link that in the description. I will have 4 illustrations every month, as well as a print well, 5 illustrations, the 5th being the print, which if you select the third tier, you'll be able to get your hands on a exclusive monthly print. Etsy shop, I'm hoping to get up in the next few weeks. It's just kind of challenging to have the energy and motivation to work on printing stuff, formatting for that, and making marketplace posts, setting up shop page. I just haven't had it in me yet, so I'll get around to it eventually. Um, it's finally like consistently hot here. We're getting almost to the 80s now here in Northwest PA. Working in the kitchen is getting to the point of absolute misery now with high humidity and lots of heat. Yeah, I think those are all the new updates that I have for you. Today, I'm going to be talking about perfectionism, which is something very relevant to me. I'm sure many other artists as well. I think perfectionism has, in recent years, manifested more in my life outside art than inside. And I think that's partially due to conditioning by art teachers. I've kind of been conditioned to satisfice when it comes to the art I produce. So I don't get super concerned with how well it turns out. Um, and that leads me to kind of how I am going to define perfectionism as the perfection dilemma and how that affects us as artists. I think beauty is a key term to define here. I think that beauty is also kind of a difficult, very subjective matter. It's also very pertinent to perfection, at least from my perspective. I think as we, being artists, spend a lot of time consuming people's best work online and are trying to create our own best work, the over focus on this kind of idealized production can make the real world or the life we live in seem a little bit dull. At least it does for me. And I think this dullness is what led me to come up with the idea of the perfection dilemma, which I define as your failure to recognize beauty in the asymmetric, the imperfect things because of an over attention to perfectionism, an over attention to an idealized state. I think that many artists, when they make videos about perfectionism or perfection, they address it as being satisfied with your work, not over concentrating on the details. I intend to do the same. However, I'm taking the approach of beauty recognition in your artwork rather than acceptance of it. And I think they kind of go hand in hand, but I think I have a little bit different perspective here, and I hope that that can make it a little easier for some of you. I think that many artists are taught to accept failure as something we have to push through to improve. We are taught we only produce work at 70% of our best. And that's just part of the journey. That's just part of being an artist and part of growing. So, how do we, as artists, accept this lower quality work? I think we need to look closely at our work and others' work to find that imperfect beauty hidden there. I think a great first step is overthrowing the notion that intricately polished work we see on social media is the only thing that artists produce. There has and always will be the kind of grimy, messy sketches that only the painter can interpret. In these roughs, I think the greatest beauty lies, really. The dirtiest, nastiest sketches carry the most gesture and movement. They serve as a raw representation of the artist. And I think the challenge is to capture that raw, undefined beauty in the final painting. But I think we get so concerned looking at all the perfectly polished work that we don't think about that side of beauty, the real beauty, the beauty that is hidden in the world all around us, the beauty that's hidden in nature with its imperfect, asymmetric design. I think that coming to terms with the idea that perfect illustrations aren't really the most raw or real representation of a person's work, then we can look at our own work and the pieces, look closely at the pieces that are only done at 70% of our capacity and find the beauty that's there, hidden in its own ways. I think this beauty can be a few gorgeous lines, a very well done gesture of one of your forms. It can be something very small. You just have to look closely and with an open mind to try and find these little bits of beauty. I think that analyzing your past work, even from years ago, and looking at all the tiny details to see what you really like in your own work can not only help you improve, but also help you find your style and ensure that you, as you've grown, as you've continued to study art, you haven't forgotten or left behind very strong skills that you would be better off keeping in your work. I think that the solution to the perfection dilemma, as it were, is really fixing the gap between the real world that we live in and the social media world that we spend a lot of our time in. Attaching value to imperfection, failure, asymmetry, we can change the way that we look at the world. Coming to terms with our own and other shortcomings, recognizing everything as an opportunity for growth. Now, I think that the Arcane, the second season especially, has some really interesting representations of these themes kind of hidden between the lines. recollecting now, big part of it is the design of characters, the way they don't have symmetric faces, the way they are simplified and artistic, but still have that human quality, that asymmetry in even the smallest details that makes them look kind of gritty, makes them fit into the world. I think the second season itself, especially with the character Victor and his hunt, his struggle to try and perfect the world, try and make it into an idealized state where there's no conflict. I think that hunt for perfection inevitably leads to destruction. All of the character, all of the soul in everyone in the show is just stripped away in a moment during the climax when Victor is using the hex core to make everything into his ideal world. And it's only there after he's reached perfection that he realizes he's been destroying everything along the way. And in the final moments of the show, when Jace is talking to Victor and consoling him and arguing against what he's done, Victor has a second of realization, and he sees that perfection is the antithesis of beauty. It's the destroyer of what connects humans to each other. Imperfection is what gives definition to beauty, in the same way that shadows give definition to light. You can't have one without the other, or everything will seem dull. And I think that that's really the hidden message in the show. If you look closely and you read between the lines, I think there's much support to my argument. However, I have, of course, forgotten. But with that, I love you all, and please take care.